Hey guys, J Money here, back with another video for you guys. This one's a little different from the ones I've done in the past. Today we're going to be going over my own personal Mount Rushmore for all 30 NBA teams. I've been working on this video for the better part of the last 3 months, so I really do hope you guys enjoy it. We're going to split this into 2 parts, one for each conference, and this is part 1, where we will be covering the 15 Eastern Conference teams. To start off, let's go over the criteria I will be following for this video. We will only be using NBA history, so no ABA stats will be included, and it will be ranking off a variety of topics from cumulative stats, awards, postseason success, and longevity. We'll be focusing only on one stats with that specific team, so someone like Michael Jordan will not be making the Wizards list based on his success with the Bulls. This is also meant to be as non-biased as possible. This is not a popularity contest. There will be 10 players per team, with at least one player being an active guy to show some representation for current players who have the ability to be stars of the franchise, but who are just too early in their career. Somebody like Cooper Flagg would fit that mold. The first team we're going to start off with is the Atlanta Hawks. I will go over the top 2 players briefly who don't need too much explanation, then I'll take off the bottom 4 guys who are great in their own rights, but not a real contender for this list. Then I'll focus on the last 4 guys to battle out the last 2 spots. I will speak on some main points for each player, but we'll list stats and other stuff on the screen for you to look at as well if you so choose. To start it off, Bob Pettit is certainly safe on Atlanta's Mount Rushmore. He brought them their sole championship back in 1958, as well as being a 2-time MVP. Dominique Wilkins is also safe, being their all-time leading scorer and a 7-time All-NBA player. Moving on to Jalen Johnson, he's the first guy we can cross off this list. He just got his first All-Star appearance this year, and he has a bright future ahead of him, but he is just too early in his career to be on the Mount Rushmore. Lenny Wilkins can also be crossed off. He made the championship in his rookie year in 1961, but has had little to no postseason success beyond that. He averaged 16 points per game and was a 5-time All-Star, but that is good, but it's just not good enough to be on the Mount Rushmore. Al Horford is a modern legend in my eyes, growing up in the 2010s, being a 4-time All-Star and 1-time All-NBA during his time in Atlanta. But he only has 1 conference finals appearance and just simply did not reach the peak that some of these guys ahead of him have reached. The last guy we can comfortably cross off is going to be Cliff Hagan. He was there for that 1958 championship team, but was not the star of said team. He's a 4-time All-Star and 2-time All-NBA player, while being 4th all-time in Atlanta Hawks scoring, so he definitely deserves to be in consideration, but he does not quite make the cut. Now for our last 4 guys who are fighting for the last 2 spots, we have Dikembe Mutombo, Joe Johnson, Trae Young, and Lou Hudson. Dikembe has the best individual success, winning 3 Defensive Player of the Years and making 2 All-NBA teams during his time in Atlanta. Joe Johnson has the most All-Star appearances with 6, as well as averaging 20 points per game. Trae Young is our franchise leader in assists and 3-pointers, while Lou Hudson has the most postseason success, making 3 conference finals while being 3rd all-time in scoring. The first guy that we're going to save here is going to be Dikembe Mutombo for his individual dominance defensively, and the last guy is a pretty tough battle. I don't think you can go wrong with any of them, but I'm going to go with Trae Young. He's the difference maker. The difference maker for him is his all-time stats for the franchise, being number 1 in assists and 3-pointers, right, while being the best offensive player, averaging 25 points per game. Next up is the Boston Celtics, easily one of the most storied franchises in all of sports history, which makes this cut down just very, very difficult to make it down to 4 players. To start it off, Bill Russell is probably the easiest lock of all time, the greatest winner in basketball history, bringing 11 championships in 13 years to the city of Boston, while capturing 5 MVPs and being a lock for a top 10 player of all time. Larry Bird is another top 10 player of all time, potentially, right? He dominated the 1980s, winning 3 straight MVPs from 1984 to 1986. He has 3 championships, and he quite literally saved the NBA alongside Magic Johnson. Sam Jones is going to be the first guy we cross off the list. He was a great player and all, but he won 10 rings alongside Bill Russell, right? But, he was not a huge part of that team. Most of that success is attributed to Bill Russell, right? So he does not have the best individual stats to be able to make the top 4. Jason Tatum is our next guy we cross off. He's our active representative. He already has 1 ring in 2024, an Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and 5 All-NBA selections, but he still needs to accomplish more to get on a Mount Rushmore that is this stacked. Dave Cowens is the next legend we have to cross off. He held down the 70s era of Celtics basketball, winning 2 titles and a league MVP in 1973, but his longevity wasn't super long and he did not have as much postseason success as some of the guys ahead of him. And the last guy we cross off here before our final cut down is going to be Kevin McHale. He was second fiddle to Larry Bird for those 3 championships in the 80s, and he won 2 Sixth Man of the Year awards, having only 1 All-NBA nod. Having that only 1 All-NBA nod is kind of the part that keeps him this low on the list, because again, his individual success wasn't too good compared to some of the guys above him. Now our 4 middle guys. We got Robert Parrish, Bob Cousy, Paul Pierce, and John Havlicek. Robert Parrish was the defensive anchor of the 1980s, winning 3 rings and sitting as the franchise all-time leader in blocks. Bob Cousy was the original floor general of the 50s and 60s dynasty. He won an MVP in 1957, but, you know, next up is Paul Pierce, who was the defining icon of the 2000 era, winning the 2008 Finals MVP and leaving as the franchise leader in steals and 3-pointers. Meanwhile, John Havlicek was Boston's all-time leading scorer, and to break this tie, first guy I'm going to save is John Havlicek, because again, being the all-time leading scorer in Celtics history is not an easy thing to do, so that kind of keeps him safe on this list. And the last spot I'm going to give is Paul Pierce, because of his incredible 15-year-long longevity, and, you know, his all-time numbers kind of help give him the edge over the guys above him. Moving on to the Brooklyn Nets. Now, this franchise's highest peaks actually took place back in the ABA days, but since we're sticking to strictly NBA history, this list looks completely different than what you might expect. To start it off, Jason Kidd is a lock on this mountain. He completely transformed the culture of the franchise in the early 2000s, leading the Nets to back-to-back finals appearances in 2002 and 2003, making 3 All-NBA selections and 6 All-Defensive teams. Buck Williams is our second lock. He was the literal heartbeat of this franchise throughout the entire 1980s, winning Rookie of the Year, making 3 All-Stars, and putting up 16 and 12 while finishing as the all-time leader in rebounds and second in franchise points. Julius Erving is the first guy we are crossing off the list. Dr. J is an absolute basketball deity. He won 2 championships and 3 MVPs with the Nets, but all of that actually took place in the ABA before the 1976 merger, so he does not have any actual NBA success with the Brooklyn Nets. Nicholas Claxton comes in next. He's our active player representative, and he hardly deserves to be on this list, but there's not really many active Nets guys who are going to be making any sort of noise in their all-time Mount Rushmore leaderboard. Drazen Petrovic is the next guy we can cross off. He was one of the greatest international pioneers in basketball history, putting up 20 points per game on 44% three-point shooting, but his tragic passing did cut his legendary peak in New Jersey short after just 3 seasons. And the last guy we can cross off before the final battle is going to be Kenyon Martin. He was the energy guy right next to Jason Kidd during those early 2000s finals runs, and he even secured 1 All-Star nod back in 2004, but his short 4-year run with the team does leave him off the final battle tier. Now our 4 middle guys, we got Brook Lopez, Vince Carter, Derek Coleman, and Richard Jefferson. Richard Jefferson was a remarkably consistent guy during those 2000 finals teams, averaging 17 points per game. Derek Coleman was an absolute powerhouse in the early 90s, winning Rookie of the Year and having 2 All-NBA nods while averaging 20 points and 11 rebounds. Vince Carter might be one of the most popular players for this franchise all time. He averaged 24 points per game and made 3 straight All-Star appearances. And then Brook Lopez was the ultimate anchor, transitioning in between the New Jersey and their Brooklyn days. He played 9 seasons there and is the all-time leading scorer and shot blocker. And because of that, Brook Lopez is the first guy I'm going to save, because again, being the all-time leading scorer, kind of hard to leave you off the list. And the last spot I'm going to give to Vince Carter, because of his individual peak, I just think was higher than any of the other guys on this list. The next team we're going to be talking about is the Charlotte Hornets. This is one of the weaker ones you're going to find, but let's get into it. To start it off, Kemba Walker is the greatest Charlotte Hornet in history. He held down the 2010s era in Charlotte, earning one All-NBA nod and 3 All-Star teams, leaving as the franchise's all-time leading scorer and 3-point king. Glenn Rice is our next lock. He only spent 3 seasons there, but his peak was too good to ignore. He averaged 24 points per game, had an All-Star appearance, actually had an All-Star game MVP, and earned 2 All-NBA selections. Baron Davis is the first guy we're going to cross off the list. He was great for them in the early 2000s, made 1 All-Star team, led them to 3 straight playoff appearances. but he just does not make the cut. Emeka Okafor comes in next to cross off. He was the foundation of the expansion Charlotte Bobcats era. He won Rookie of the Year in 2005, is the all-time leader in total rebounds, but he lacked the all-star peak that some of these guys ahead of him have. Muggsy Bogues is going to be another guy we cross off here. He stands in at only 5'3", being the shortest player in NBA history. Definitely one of the most beloved Charlotte Hornets players, I believe, in my eyes. He defined kind of the heart of that team in the 90s, but he does not really have any personal accolades to get him on the Mount Rushmore. And the last guy we're going to cross off here before the final battle is Gerald Wallace. He earned one All-Star selection and an All-Defensive First-Team nod to go along with a Steals title in 2006, but it does not have the All-NBA or the scoring peaks as some of the guys ahead of him. And for our last tier, our four middle guys here are Larry Johnson, LaMelo Ball, Alonzo Mourning, and Del Curry. Del Curry was the original sniper and ultimate sixth man of the 90s, playing 10 seasons for the franchise, and sits second all-time in scoring. LaMelo Ball is our active representative. He has the Rookie of the Year award, an All-Star appearance, and averages 21 and 7. Alonzo Mourning averaged 21 and 10 in his 3 years there, with almost 3 blocks per game, while being the franchise's all-time block leader. And then Larry Johnson was a cultural phenomenon in the 90s, winning Rookie of the Year, having 2 All-Star teams, and having an All-NBA second-team selection. First guy I'm going to save here is going to be Larry Johnson because of his peak popularity and All-NBA status in the greatest era in franchise history. And for that very last spot, I'm going to save Alonzo Mourning just because of his peak. I think his peak was way better than any of the other 4 guys left here on this tier. Moving on to the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls' success all dates back to the 90s, where most of this list will come from. To start off our list, Michael Jordan's easily a lock here. He's probably the best player in NBA history. Maybe next to LeBron James. That's a debate for another time. But he definitely revolutionized the game globally. He had 2 separate three-peats here in the 90s, won 5 MVPs, 6 Finals MVPs, and a Defensive Player of the Year award as well. Scottie Pippen is our second lock, his partner in crime next to Michael Jordan, being the Robin to his Batman, helping capture those 6 championships in the 90s with 7 All-Star selections to go along with it. Josh Giddey is going to be the first guy we cross off the list. He's our active representative. He's a young player, and there's not a whole lot of guys on the Bulls team who have any sort of standing amongst their all-time ranks, so he gets thrown in here, but there's really not much to talk about. Then you have Jimmy Butler, who is going to be crossed off next. He was a defensive specialist and a multi-time All-Star in the mid-2010s, but his peak was not very high in Chicago. Horace Grant comes in next. He was another guy that was there during the first three-peat in the 1990s, securing 1 All-Star nod and making multiple all-defensive teams. But again, his individual peak is just a notch below the heavy hitters up on this board. And Dennis Rodman's actually going to be the last guy we cross off before the final battle. He was a defensive mastermind who was there for the second three-peat, but he did not make a single All-Star game in his time in Chicago, so his individual peak is beat out by the guys above him. Now for our 4 middle guys here, we have Bob Love, Artis Gilmore, Joakim Noah, and Derrick Rose. If you look at Bob Love, he held down the 1970s era, was an elite scorer, and had 3 All-Star nods, climbing to 3rd all-time in the franchise scoring list. Looking at Derrick Rose, he was an absolute icon in the 2010s. He won the Rookie of the Year in 2009, and then was the youngest MVP in NBA history in 2011, before some devastating injuries cut his legendary peak short. Shifting to Artis Gilmore, he was an absolute titan in the 70s and 80s, making 4 All-Star teams and leaving as the franchise's all-time leader in blocked shots. And then we have Joakim Noah, who was the defensive engine of the early 2010s Bulls. He won a Defensive Player of the Year award and was a first-team All-NBA player in 2014 while finishing 4th in MVP voting. To break this tie, the first guy I'm going to save is Derrick Rose because I think his peak is the highest out of any of these guys, culminating in that 2011 MVP season. And then the last spot is going to go to Bob Love because of his 9-year-long longevity and his elite scoring, sitting at 3rd all-time in the franchise history. That's going to do enough to give him the edge for the last spot on the mountain. Moving on to the Cleveland Cavaliers, which I feel like we all know who number 1 is. but the rest of the list is more fun. Number 1, of course, is LeBron, winning 2 MVPs there in Cleveland, making 5 finals, and of course won the Ultimate Championship in 2016. Kyrie Irving is going to be our second lock, being the co-star next to LeBron during that championship run, and hitting one of the biggest shots in NBA history in Game 7. Ron Harper is the first guy we're going to cross off the list. He burst to the scene in the 80s as a young scoring guard who put up 19 points per game, but again, his short 4-year run is going to keep him off the mountain for Cleveland. Austin Carr is the next guy we got to cross off. He was there for the expansion era in Cleveland in the 70s, averaging 16 points per game, and his 4th all-time on the franchise scoring list, but he does not have any All-NBA accolades to keep him high on this list. Larry Nance is another guy we're going to have to cross off. He did earn 3 All-Defensive selections during his time there, and his 3rd all-time in franchise blocks, but his individual scoring peak and lack of All-NBA selections is going to keep him off the Mount Rushmore. And the last guy we got to cross off before the final battle is going to be Zydrunas Ilgauskas. Big Z was the beloved guy who spent 12 seasons in Cleveland, climbing to 2nd all-time in points and rebounds, while sitting as the all-time leader in blocks, but his individual peak with only 2 All-Star selections does leave him just short of our final tier. Then our 4 middle guys here are going to be Brad Daugherty, Kevin Love, Mark Price, and Donovan Mitchell. Mark Price, he was an absolute floor general in the 80s and 90s, completely changing how point guard position was played, secured 4 All-NBA nods, and was a member of the exclusive 50-40-90 club in 1989. Donovan Mitchell is our active player representative, bringing a high-scoring punch with 27 points per game, and already has 3 straight All-NBA selections as a Cav. Now Kevin Love, he was a 3rd star there in a double-double machine during that finals run in that championship window from 2015 to 2018, and did, of course, win that 2016 title. And then Brad Daugherty was, the paint beast for that legendary 90s squad. He made 5 All-Star teams, averaging 19 and 10. To break this tie, first guy I'm going to save is Mark Price, being an All-NBA first-team guard and having the longevity there in Cleveland is going to give him a spot on the mountain. And the last guy is going to go to Brad Daugherty because his individual consistency and longevity over some of the more modern guys like Kevin Love or Donovan Mitchell is going to keep Brad Daugherty alive on the last spot on the mountain. Next up is the Detroit Pistons, probably one of the most physical teams of all time, with the Bad Boy Pistons in the 80s and 90s, and the Malice at the Palace crew in the 2000s. To start it off, Isaiah Thomas is the greatest Piston to ever lived. He led them to back-to-back championships in 89 and 90, while securing a Finals MVP. Ben Wallace, their second immediate lock, anchoring that legendary 2004 championship team, being a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, and being the franchise's all-time leader in blocks. Cade Cunningham is our modern guy we're going to have to cross off of this list, though. He is our active guy, right? He's averaging 23 and 8, being a multi-time All-Star already, but it's just too early in his career to be on the mountain. Richard Hamilton comes in next, being an absolute dog, averaging 18 points per game, and being a key piece of the 2004 championship team, but his individual accolades is going to keep him off the mountain. Grant Hill is the next guy we're going to have to cross off. He was one of the original point forwards here in the 90s, racking up 5 All-NBA selections, averaging 22, 8, and 6. But again, his individual dominance and certainly his playoff success is beat out by a lot of the guys on this list. And the last guy we're crossing off before the final battle is Bill Laimbeer. He was the anchor of the Bad Boys era, playing 13 years in Detroit, being their all-time leading rebounder. But again, his individual peak is edged out before our final battle. Now for the 4 middle guys here, we got Joe Dumars, Chauncey Billups, Bob Lanier, and Dennis Rodman. If you look at Dennis Rodman, he was the 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, being the perimeter stopper for the Bad Boy Pistons in their back-to-back title runs. Looking at Bob Lanier, he was a Titan in the 70s, making 7 All-Star teams, putting up a monstrous 23 and 12. Looking at Chauncey Billups, he was the floor general for the 2004 championship, winning the Finals MVP, and made 6 straight Eastern Conference Finals appearances during the 2000s. Then you got Joe Dumars, who was a silent assassin who won the 1989 Finals MVP and is the 2nd all-time in franchise scoring. Because of that, he's the first guy I'm going to save on this list. Because again, being that high in franchise scoring while winning 2 titles and a Finals MVP, going to be pretty hard to keep you on the list. And the last guy is going to go to their other final MVP in 2004 with Chauncey Billups. Now we have the Indiana Pacers. To start it off, Reggie Miller's easily a lock here. He made 6 conference finals appearances and 1 trip to the 2000 NBA Finals, being the all-time leader in points, assists, steals, and 3-pointers. Jermaine O'Neal is our second lock, right, being a 6-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA player, while being 2nd all-time in blocks and 5th in scoring. Moving into our cut down, guys, it's going to be an interesting one here. First, I want to talk about the 3 ABA stars, being Roger Brown, George McGinnis, and Mel Daniels. All 3 of these guys had 3 ABA titles together. Mel Daniels had 2 MVPs, and McGinnis had an ABA MVP as well. But again, all of their stats and success was in the ABA, so none of them are going to make the list, but I thought I should mention them because they were very, very dominant in the ABA. Mark Jackson comes in next. He spent 6 seasons there, leading the league in assists in 1997, had 4 conference finals runs, but his individual scoring peak does get him edged out of the list. Roy Hibbert's our next legend to cross off. He was the defensive anchor for those 2 conference finals appearance teams in the 2010s. 2-time All-Star, his 5th all-time in franchise blocks, but his limited longevity offensively is going to keep him out of the final tier. And the final guy we cross off before that final tier is going to be Detlef Schrempf. He was an offensive weapon who won back-to-back 6th Man of the Year awards in the 90s, made 1 All-Star team, but his short stint of only 5 years does leave him off the list. Then our 4 middle guys are going to be Dale Davis, Rick Smits, Paul George, and Tyrese Halliburton. Looking at Dale Davis, he spent a decade there, making 1 All-Star team and sit 2nd all-time in franchise rebounds. Turning to Rick Smits, he had 12 years of reliable center play, making 1 All-Star team, ranking 2nd all-time in points, and made 5 conference finals appearances. Next up is going to be Paul George, where he had 4 All-Star nods, 3 All-NBA selections, and went toe-to-toe with the league's best in back-to-back conference finals. Meanwhile, Tyrese Halliburton serves as our active star representative, being an elite playmaker who already has 2 All-Star appearances, back-to-back All-NBA selections, while making it to Game 7 of the NBA Finals 1 year ago, where they probably would have won if he did not tear his Achilles. To break this tie, the first guy I'm going to save is Paul George. Because of his elite peak and back-to-back conference finals runs, that is enough to make the Mount Rushmore. And the last spot is going to go to Tyrese Halliburton, because he was an Achilles injury away from bringing them an NBA championship and a finals MVP, which is something that could not be said about any other player in Indiana Pacers history. Next up is the Miami Heat. To start it off, Dwayne Wade's the best Heat player of all time. He has 3 championships there in 15 seasons, 1 iconic Finals MVP in 2006, and has 13 All-Star selections there. LeBron James is our next guy we have to lock in, right? He won 2 MVPs, 2 Finals MVPs, and back-to-back NBA championships in his 4-year stint there. Udonis Haslem's the first guy we're going to cross off the list. He's the Heat icon for sure, spending 20 years there, but his individual peak is nowhere near any of the other guys on the list. Glenn Rice comes in next, carrying the load for them in the 90s, averaging 19 points a night, but he lacks the postseason success necessary to be high on this list. Tim Hardaway is another guy from the 90s. He's going to be crossed off this list. He does have an All-NBA first-team nod, so his peak is higher than Glenn Rice, but he still has no playoff success to speak of. And the last guy we're going to cross off before the final battle is Bam Adebayo. He provided elite defense with them having 3 All-Star selections, 2 finals appearances to go along with a franchise best and 2nd best in NBA history 83-point outing, but he falls just short of our final tier. Now for the 4 middle guys here, we have Alonzo Mourning, Jimmy Butler, Chris Bosh, and Shaquille O'Neal. Looking at Shaq, he brought his dominance to Miami, earning 3 All-Star selections while co-starring on the 2006 title team. Turning to Chris Bosh, he had 6 straight All-Star selections in Miami, while winning, 2 championships, being the 3rd best player on those teams. Looking at Alonzo Mourning, he claimed back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year awards, has an All-NBA first-team nomination, and played a big role in that 2006 finals year. Meanwhile, Jimmy Butler has been the embodiment of Heat culture since he took over there in the late, 2010s to early 2020s. He averaged 21 points per game while taking them to 2 finals appearances. To break this tie, the first guy I'm going to save is Alonzo Mourning because of his longevity to go along with the championship and 2 Defensive Player of the Years. And the very last spot is going to be very, very close, but I'm actually going to give it to Jimmy Butler because of his All-NBA success that he had there, as well as being the guy to carry them to the finals rather than Shaquille O'Neal, who was carried by Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, who was carried by LeBron James and also Dwayne Wade. The next team we're going to talk about is the Milwaukee Bucks. They have two very distinct eras that are highly represented on this list. To start off, Giannis Antetokounmpo is the greatest player in Bucks history, bringing them the 2021 NBA championship, winning the Finals MVP, and having 2 regular season MVPs and a Defensive Player of the Year award to go along with it. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is going to get our second lock. His tenure in Milwaukee was only 6 years long, but his dominance was too good to ignore. He had 3 MVPs, a Finals MVP, and brought them the championship in 1971. John McLaughlin is going to be the first guy we cross off the list. He was a starting guard on that 1971 title team and has 1 All-Star appearance, but his individual peak definitely is not good enough to keep him high on this list. Terry Cummins comes in next, being a 2-time All-Star in the 1980s with 2 All-NBA selections as well, averaging 19 points per game, but his playoff success is non-existent. Michael Redd is the next legend we have to cross off. He's one of the most lethal lefties of his era. He was the leading scorer for them in the 2000s, peaking with 1 All-Star nod and an All-NBA third-team selection, while climbing to 6th all-time in franchise scoring. And the last guy we can cross off before the final battle is going to be Ray Allen. Long before he became a champion elsewhere, he spent 7 years as an elite superstar in Milwaukee, being a 3-time All-Star and leading them to the 2001 Eastern Conference Finals. Now our 4 middle guys here, we have Sidney Moncrief, Oscar Robertson, Marquez Johnson, and Chris Middleton. Oscar Robertson brought championship-level talent in Milwaukee late in his career, being the perfect pairing next to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, helping win the 1971 title. Turning to Marquez Johnson, he was there in the late 70s and early 80s, racking up 4 All-Star selections and an All-NBA first-team nod. Looking at Chris Middleton, he was a 50-40-90 guy who had 3 All-Star selections and was a co-star for Giannis in that 2021 championship run. And then you got Sidney Moncrief, one of the best defenders of all time, really, being a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year in the 80s, while making it to 5 consecutive All-Star appearances. To break this tie, the first guy I'm going to save is Sidney Moncrief because of his peak, being a 5-time All-Star and 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. And that last spot is going to go to Oscar Robertson because of his amazing role that he played in winning that 1971 title. Next up is going to be the New York Knicks, who have a very long history, not a whole lot of success until recently, right? First guy we're going to keep on here is Willis Reed, winning 2 championships, 2 Finals MVPs, and the 1970 regular season MVP, while sitting 2nd all-time in rebounds and 3rd in scoring. Patrick Ewing grabs our next spot, being the leader of the 90s team, spent 15 seasons there, has 11 All-Star selections, and is the all-time leader in points, rebounds, blocks, and steals. Charles Oakley is going to be the first guy we cross off the list. He was a great defender for them in the 90s, spent a decade there, 2nd all-time in franchise steals, and 3rd in rebounds, but his low offensive totals and limited accolades keep him low on the list. Earl Monroe comes in next. He was a great player for them during their 73 championship run, has 2 All-Star appearances, and 8th all-time in scoring, but this list is a little bit too stacked for his liking. Bernard King is another guy we're going to cross off the list. He had the 1985 scoring title, was back-to-back All-NBA first-team nods in the 80s, but he had a devastating knee injury that cut his peak in New York short, limiting his long-term franchise longevity. And the last guy we cross out before the final tier is going to be Allen Houston. He spent 9 seasons there as a 2-time All-Star and is 2nd all-time in franchise 3-pointers and 4th in points, while being a key piece of their team that made it to the 1999 NBA Finals. Now for our 4 middle guys here, we have Walt Frazier, Jalen Brunson, Carmelo Anthony, and Dave DeBusschere. First guy we're going to talk about here is Carmelo Anthony here. He was a superstar in New York, capturing the 2013 scoring title, had 6 consecutive All-Star appearances as well. Looking at Dave DeBusschere, he was a great defending piece of that 70s championship team, was a 5-time All-Star and 6-time All-Defensive First-Team player, winning those 2 rings in the 70s. Then we turn to Jalen Brunson, who has stamped his foot as a New York legend, winning the 2026 NBA Finals and Finals MVP. He also has 3 All-NBA nods to go along with it. And the last guy we're looking at is Walt Frazier. He led them to their 2 rings in the 70s, while being a 7-time All-Star and 7-time All-Defensive First-Team player, being the all-time leader in assists and second in points. To break this tie, the first guy I'm going to save is going to be Walt Frazier because of his unreal longevity to go along with the two championships, keeps him on their Mount Rushmore. The last guy I'm going to save is Jalen Brunson. I know some people have been saying that after this championship run, he's the best Knick ever. I wouldn't go that far, but he's definitely a top 4 lock for me. Next up is going to be the Orlando Magic. They've been historically dominated by one particular position, which we're going to get into at their first lock, being Dwight Howard. He was a force of nature. He took home 3 consecutive Defensive Player of the Year awards, has 5 All-NBA first team nods, and led them to the 2009 finals while sitting as a franchise all-time leader in points, rebounds, and blocks. Second guy here is going to be Shaquille O'Neal. He was only there for 4 years, but has a Rookie of the Year award, a scoring title, and led them to their very first NBA Finals in 1995. Darrell Armstrong is going to be the first guy we cross off the list. He was undrafted, and he ended up winning a 6th Man of the Year and Most Improved Player award in 1999, but his individual success keeps him well off the mountain. Dennis Scott comes in next, being one of the best shooters of the 1990s and being a key part of that 1995 Finals run, but his individual peak does not measure up to the guys ahead of him. Jameer Nelson's another guy we have to cross off. He was the point guard and earned an All-Star 2009, leading them to the 2009 NBA Finals, while being the franchise's all-time leader in assists, but his peak definitely is not as good as some of the guys ahead of him. And the last guy we cross up before the final tier is going to be Paolo Banchero. He won Rookie of the Year. He has 3 All-Star selections and 3 All-NBA selections as well to this early on in his career. But he has no playoff success to speak of yet, but he definitely is on the right path to being on the Mount Rushmore before his career ends. Now our 4 middle guys here, we have Tracy McGrady, Nick Anderson, Penny Hardaway, and Nikola Vucevic. If you look at Nikola Vucevic, he spent 9 seasons there, earning 2 All-Stars and sits 2nd all-time in rebounds and 3rd in points. Turning to Penny Hardaway, he had his superstar peak in the mid-90s, forming a legendary duo with Shaq, earning 2 All-NBA first-team selections. Looking at Nick Anderson, he was the franchise's first ever draft pick and made 5 separate playoffs and sits 1st all-time in steals and 2nd in points. Then we look at Tracy McGrady, who put together one of the most electric scoring peaks in basketball history, winning back-to-back scoring titles and being a 2-time All-NBA first-team guy in Orlando. And because of that, Tracy McGrady is going to be the first guy I save here from this group, because simply his peak is just better than any of the other guys in this tier. And that last spot I'm going to give it to Nick Anderson actually because of his longevity and all-time franchise rankings with the team. Next up on our list is going to be the Philadelphia 76ers, who have guys from a bunch of different eras on this list. To start it off, Julius Erving is going to be our first lock on this list. He captured the 1981 MVP, had 11 consecutive postseason runs with 4 finals appearances, and the legendary 1983 NBA championship. Wilt Chamberlain takes our second spot on this list. He only was there for 4 seasons, but he had 3 consecutive MVP awards to go along with the 1967 championship trophy. Maurice Cheeks is the first guy we're going to cross off the list. He was there for 11 seasons, earning 4 All-Star selections, which is good, but not quite good enough to be on the mountain. Billy Cunningham comes in next. He was there for 9 years, was a 4-time All-Star and 3-time All-NBA first-team guy, while being a key piece of that 1967 championship squad, but his individual peak is just edged out before our final tier. Charles Barkley is another guy we have to cross off. He was there for 8 years, had made 6 All-Star teams and 4 All-NBA first teams, but his notable lack of postseason success keeps him low on the list. And the last guy we have to cross up before the final battle is going to be Joel Embiid. Trust the process, am I right? He peaked with that 2023 MVP award and has 7 All-Star selections, but he has yet to make it past the second round of the playoffs, which significantly hurts his place on the list. Now looking at our 4 middle guys here, we got Allen Iverson, Dolph Schayes, Hal Greer, and Moses Malone. If we look at Moses Malone first, he dominated in Philadelphia, securing the 1983 MVP, 1983 Finals MVP, and a championship in the same season. Turning to Hal Greer, he spent 15 seasons there, racking up 10 All-Star selections, and is the all-time leading scorer for the franchise. Dolph Schayes was there for 15 years during the Syracuse Nationals era, actually, had 15 playoff appearances, so never missed the playoffs, and won the 1955 championship trophy. Allen Iverson was also great for Philly. He had the 2001 MVP trophy, had 4 total scoring titles, and dragged them to the 2001 NBA Finals. First spot I'm going to save here is going to be Allen Iverson because of his pure individual dominance, winning, 4 straight scoring titles, right? And the very last spot I'm going to give to Dolph Schayes because of his longevity and his postseason success, resulting in that 1955 championship. Now we move on to the Toronto Raptors, one of the newer franchises here with a great list of players to choose from. Started off, Chris Bosh is going to be a lock for the Raptors. He spent 7 years there, being a 5-time All-Star and their all-time leader in rebounds and blocks. Vince Carter takes the second spot on the list. He was there for 7 seasons, won Rookie of the Year, and put the franchise on the global map, leading them to their first playoff runs. Tracy McGrady is another guy we're going to have to cross off the list here. He grew into a Hall of Fame player later, but he only spent 3 years in Toronto, where he was largely a secondary option, leaving him in the bottom slot. Andre Bagnardi comes in next, being the former #1 overall pick. He spent 7 seasons there, providing solid spacing and climbed to 6th all-time in scoring, but his lack of accolades keep him in the lower tier. Next guy we're going to cross off is going to be Scotty Barnes. Our active cornerstone already has a Rookie of the Year award and 2 All-Star appearances, but he simply needs a few more seasons of longevity and some playoff success to crack the top tier of this board. Fred VanVleet's the last guy we're going to cross off before this list, an undrafted guy who spent 7 seasons there, earning an All-Star nod, and played a massive role off the bench in that 2019 title team, but his peak as an individual is edged out by the guys ahead of him. Our 4 middle guys here are going to be Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, and Pascal Siakam. If we look at Pascal Siakam, he spent 8 seasons there, winning the championship in 2019 as a second or third option on that roster, took home Most Improved Player, and is a 2-time All-NBA guy. Looking at DeMar DeRozan, he spent 9 seasons there, earning 4 All-Star selections, and is a franchise all-time leading scorer. Looking at Kawhi Leonard, he spent just 1 singular season in Toronto, but it was the greatest individual year in franchise history, with the historic postseason run, winning the 2019 NBA Championship and Finals MVP. And then you got Kyle Lowry, who was there for 9 seasons, had 7 straight playoff runs, 6 All-Star nods, and is the all-time leader in assists, steals, and threes, while being the second/third option on that 2019 championship team. To break this tie, the first guy I'm going to save is Kawhi Leonard because he did deliver them the peak, like the absolute pinnacle of NBA, being the champion in 2019, winning the Finals MVP. And the last guy, despite DeMar DeRozan's massive regular season longevity and scoring records, he's going to go to Kyle Lowry because he also has some pretty good all-time stats, and he did win that 2019 championship. And last but not least is going to be the Washington Wizards. It's been a long time since this franchise had any sort of success. But looking at some of that early success, we're going to start off our list with Elvin Hayes. He spent 9 years there, leading them to the 1978 championship, while sitting as the all-time leader in points and blocks. Wes Unseld's going to get our second spot. He was there for 13 years, won both the regular season MVP and Rookie of the Year in 1969, and captured the 1978 Finals MVP as well. Alex Sarr is going to be the first guy we cross off the list. It's just way too early in his career to really make any noise on a list like this. Rod Strickland comes in next. He spent 5 seasons there, was an All-NBA second-team guy, and led the league in assists in 1998, but his peak is edged out by the longer tenured stars. Chris Webber is another guy we have to cross off here. He had 4 great seasons there, securing an All-Star nod in 1997, but his short stay in Washington keeps him this low on the board. And the last guy we cross out before the final run is going to be Earl Monroe. He had a great 4-year run to start his career there, winning Rookie of the Year, making an All-NBA first team, but again, his lack of longevity is going to hurt him compared to the other guys on the list. In our 4 middle guys here, we have John Wall, Gus Johnson, Gilbert Arenas, and Bradley Beal. If you look at Bradley Beal, he was there for 11 seasons, was a great scorer, racked up 3 All-Star selections, and is second all-time in franchise points. Turning to Gilbert Arenas, he was there for 8 years, had 3 All-Star selections, and 3 All-NBA honors, with another high-scoring peak. Looking at Gus Johnson, he was there for 9 years, a 5-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA guy, while being a great defensive player for them. And John Wall ran the point there for 9 seasons, being a 5-time All-Star and the franchise's leader in assists and steals. First guy I'm going to save here is going to be John Wall, because of his dual status as the ultimate playmaker and defensive thief in franchise history locks his place on the mountain. And that very last spot for me is going to go to Gus Johnson because of his sustained All-Star and All-NBA peak. That is enough to give him the final spot on their Mount Rushmore. Alright guys, that sums up part 1 of my list with every NBA franchise's Mount Rushmore. Let me know your thoughts, what you agreed with, disagreed with, and who you would have had on your Mount Rushmore instead. Part 2, the Western Conference, will come out exactly 1 week from the release of this video, where again I will cover the 15 Western Conference teams' Mount Rushmore. I've been working on this video for the better part of 3 months, spending hundreds of hours on it, so I really do appreciate your views, and if you liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. God bless, and have a great day.